worth 100 and still kicking. Although he's no spring chicken, he's an NYU professor, Jerome Bruner. He served in World War II, he attended public school. Everyone thinks he's cool, Jerome Bruner. Play. Curriculum. Language. Thinking.
Jerome Bruner was born on October 1st, 1915. He was born to Polish immigrant parents. He was born blind but did gain sight after he had cataract eye surgeries on both eyes as an infant. He attended public schools throughout his life and graduated in 1933. He then went on to attend Duke University, where he received a bachelor's degree in psychology in 1937. He furthered his education at Harvard, gaining both a master's degree in 1939 and a doctorate degree in 1941, both in psychology. He served in World War II under General Eisenhower in the Psychological Warfare Division of Supreme Headquarters Allies Expeditionary Force. During World War II, Bruner worked as a social psychologist, exploring propaganda, public opinion, and social attitudes for U.S. Army intelligence. After his service, he accepted a job at Harvard University. When entering the field of psychology at Harvard, Bruner was surrounded by behaviorists. Bruner revolted against behaviorism and together with Leo Postman set out on a series of experiments that would result in the New Look, a new theory of perception.
Another influential leader in early childhood education who set out to teach physiologists that the study of education and teaching was important was G. Stanley Hall. G. Stanley Hall was a strong advocate of the study of both children and adolescents. Before Hall's time, psychologists had thought that the study of education and teaching were not as interesting as other topics in the psychology field. He wanted it to be his goal to create a professional base of knowledge for the field of education. Without the help of Hall in the pushing of studying psychology as it relates to education in children, Bruner would not be able to focus his studying on psychology related to early childhood education. Bruner was influenced by Piaget's ideas of cognitive development in children. Bruner's main research took place in the 1960s. During this time, Kennedy was elected president and made his famous speech, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." There was also a war on poverty happening during this time, which caused President Lyndon B. Johnson to create the ESEA Act of 1965. This act provided education for all children no matter the income. The war on segregation also was a major event during this time, causing integration to happen in schools across the country. These major events could have influenced Bruner to realize how important the study of children is to try and change their outlook on the world. It is hard to sum up all the things that Jerome Bruner has accomplished throughout his life because he has been involved in so much research. Some of the main things he has studied throughout the years have been the development of language, play, thinking, and curriculum. He introduced the ideas of readiness for learning and spiral curriculum. Bruner believed that any subject could be taught at any stage of development in a way that fit the child's cognitive abilities. Spiral curriculum refers to the idea of revisiting basic ideas over and over, building upon them, and elaborating to the level of full understanding and mastery.
When entering the field of psychology at Harvard, Bruner was surrounded by behaviorists. In Bruner's research on the cognitive development of children, he proposed 3 methods of representation. Enactive mode appears first at the ages of 0 to 1. It involves encoding action-based information and storing it in our memory. This can be seen in the form of muscle memory when a baby learns how to shake a rattle. Iconic mode takes place from the ages of 1 to 6 and involves information being stored visually in the form of images. This can be seen when children learn best from diagrams or images in the classroom. The symbolic mode develops last, happening after the age of 7. This mode involves information being stored in the form of a code or symbol, which can be seen as a language. This mode being the most adaptable, with the symbols being representations for many different things. Bruner believes that the evolution of the mind goes through stages of inventions called the theory of evolution of the mind. His first stage is called the theory of the evolution of the mind, which is when humans succeeded in developing devices that gave them the capacity to increase their motor capacities. The second stage being the amplifiers of sensory capacities, in which humans created inventions that amplified sensory capacities. The third stage being the amplifiers of human ratiocinative capacities, in which humans created inventions that amplify our intellectual capacities.
Hey guys, it's Veronica Corningstone here with Jerome Bruner. Jerome, tell the students a little bit about yourself.
Hey students, yes, I'm still alive. I'm 100 years old and still teaching at NYU. I absolutely love my job and will not quit teaching until the day that I die.
Tell us a little bit about your work, Jerome.
Oh boy, where do I start? I've been alive for so many years I cannot even remember all the stuff I've done. Some of my accomplishments in my life have been switching the mindset of many of my former behaviorist colleagues into a constructivist mindset, relaying my knowledge to many college students throughout my life, finishing 2 books, and recently putting lots of work into the so-called cognitive revolution.
Can you tell the students a little bit more about the cognitive revolution?
Well, I say recently because it feels like just yesterday, but we actually started on the cognitive revolution journey in the 1950s. I know, surprising most of your parents were not even born yet. You will understand how fast time flies when you get to be my age. But back to the cognitive revolution. It was our aim to discover and to describe formally the meanings that human beings created out of their encounters with the world, and then to process hypotheses about what meaning-making process were implicated. It focused on the symbolic activities that human beings employed in constructing and making sense not only of the world but of themselves.
So in simpler terms, you wanted to replace behaviorism?
Yes.
Okay, Jerome, I have one last question. What do you think education has a possibility of?
By applying the newly emerging cultural psychology to education, I propose that the mind reaches its full potential only through participation in the culture, not just its more formal arts and sciences, but its ways of perceiving, thinking, feeling, and carrying out discourse. By examining both educational practice and educational theory, I have explored new and rich ways of approaching many of the classical problems that perplex educators.
Thank you, Jerome, for sharing your knowledge with all of these students.
Thank you for letting me share my information.